Each continent, or planet as it was later called, contained different base types that were linked in such a way to provide a continental benefit based on the type of base or bases controlled. The first base I will talk about is the Biolab, which had the most vulnerable generator on top of the base, but had a fairly simple control console to defend with a decent sized group of players if you managed to coordinate a defensive line before losing power. The benefits of controlling this base was faster respawn times. The next base is the amp station, which had the generator in the basement, but the control console on the roof. The control console could be defended for a time, but attackers could come from both directions, and so the defenders had to be quick to reallocate defenders to the side being pushed, or they would soon find themselves flanked from behind. Reinforcements were often prevented because they had to run a gauntlet of vehicle fire to reach the roof. The benefits of controlling this base was a shield for vehicles that could end up being the difference between winning or losing an armored engagement that would otherwise be equal. The next base is the interlink facility. Both the generator and the control console were in the basement, and so it was often the hardest base to attack when there was a sizable defending force. The benefits of controlling this base is that all enemies show up on radar, which further assisted defenders in knowing where attackers were at all times, so they could more easily react to a focused assault. The next base, and the most important, is the tech plant. The generator was in the basement, while the control console was on the top floor, but didn't allow much room to bottleneck attackers. It was the only base where you could pull vehicles without exposing yourself to enemies in the courtyard. Controlling a tech plant would allow the faction to pull heavier vehicles, and so it was often the first base assaulted when an attacking force was trying to push onto a new continent. Lastly, there was the dropship center, which there was only one of on each continent. The layout was the same as the interlink facility, only the courtyard was expanded to house an additional building in which large support aircraft could be pulled. This was highly beneficial to the controlling faction, as they could deliver large infantry assaults to targets without leaving the continent. Additionally, the benefit of controlling this base was automated vehicle repair whenever a ground vehicle or aircraft was near a resupply station or landing pad, respectively. All bases have two or more links, which may link to a warp gate or another base. This was a benefit because the more linked bases a faction controls, the more cumulative benefits they enjoy while fighting on the continent. In turn, this link system allowed other factions to strike strategic targets in order to weaken their opponent on the front line. This would force a defensive response in order to restore the vital benefits needed to achieve ultimate victory on the front lines. Imagine losing power to your only tech plant on the opposite side of the continent of where the major battle is taking place. Until you send a response team to repair the damage, your faction can't pull heavy vehicles. This is just one example of what made PlanetSide so dynamic. Fighting on a continent wasn't just about pushing for territory in certain areas on the front line, but rather the whole continent had to be monitored and controlled in order for a faction to be successful in conquering a continent.